really excited to start my lesson today. It's so brand new, I really have only done it one time. And in order to get ready for the lesson, I want to just show you, first of all, a real simple little thing, and that's stamping. So I'm going to be using some images that were stamped, and here's another one. So I'm just going to show you how I do it. I take a flat brush, like a 1-inch flat brush would be perfect, and with not too much water, just enough water to dampen the color. And I'm going to do this in kind of earthy colors, so I'm just going to get some, maybe some Quin Gold, maybe some Quin Burnt Orange. And this happens to be a stamp that I made. It was carved out of a soft linoleum using a linoleum cutter. And it was back, I did it years ago when I was doing a lot of butterflies. It was a favorite subject of my mom's. So I carved out this two butterflies. And I'll tell you, I've had a great time with these butterflies. And I don't care that they're butterflies. I just care that this is going to have an interesting pattern that I'm going to use rather abstractly. So you can see, using this brush really flat, I'm going to just go ahead and stamp it now. And there's the image. And I'm going to stamp it again. And I usually like the second or third stamp even better because it's softer. It's more what I call a ghost. And it also cleans it up. Now here is a store-bought stamp. Same thing, not a whole bunch of water. So I'm dipping my brush in the water, but I'm wiping off quite a bit of it. And then I'm going to take just the direct color. This happens to be the same colors again. Some gold. And then I'm going to use a little French ultramarine blue on here. And the first stamp is usually too much, but oh, that one's working pretty good. And the second one is perfect, and the third one is a ghost. Maybe even a fourth one if I'm lucky. No, not really. So this is how I produced some of those stamps. And I'll probably use this one too because the colors are perfect. I'm also going to use this Ogura paper, which is a beautiful archival paper that has all these holes in it. You'll find this paper in your box of gifts. And I'm also going to be using some Unryu. Now this is a very lightweight 10-gram paper that is, this is what I did the stamping on. There it is. But I'm also going to rip this up and glue it down. Oh, we've got some fun coming up. I'm going to use a little bit of store-bought collage paper. So you might just check out what you have in your reservoir there of special papers that you've been saving for years. And then down the line, I'm going to teach you how to make your own collage paper. And this happens to be a jelly paper that I made with a jelly plate. Inked it up and pulled off some of these beautiful textures. Some of them were created with a stencil, like this one. And some of them are like the negative of the stencil. And who knows how some of these, oh here, this one was made by actually using leaves that I picked outside. So I'm going to use a few of these jelly papers as well. And another, you'll see in your list of tips, I show you how you can just take a webbing spray, it's now called marbling, and just spray it, wiggle your hands and let it come out, and I spray it onto this 10-gram Unryu, which is absolutely phenomenal. And then I can just take out little sections of this and glue it down where I want it. So I'm pretty excited about that. So we're going to use quite a few of these items. So I'm going to take a pencil, and you can see what I'm doing right here. It's set up right in front of me. So from time to time you'll get a little shot of this with another camera. But for right now, I'm going to have you look at my subject with a photograph I just took. And you can see it falls into a beautiful position here. Whenever I'm doing any kind of a drawing or preparation for my painting, I like to think of what we call the rule of the thirds. So I like to think of the paper divided into 3, and then you divide it into 3 again. Looks like a tic-tac-toe, I know. But what I'm thinking of is I want this beautiful sunflower, the head of the sunflower, to kind of fall into this 1/3 position here. So I'm thinking about the 2 overlapping shapes, and then some of the movement coming forward, some of the movement going back. And see how that's falling into the thirds. It's not right in the middle. You want to stay away from right in the middle. So we'll get started. My plan is to simply draw in some of the shapes using my HB pencil. And this is what's going to happen. This much of it is actually going to be the image. And this is going to get stretched around the back later. So you can see behind me these 2 pieces. These have been stretched around the side of a framework. And then you can actually see the image as it goes back along the side. So I'm really excited about doing that. I'm going to share that with you. We're going to wet the back of the paper when it's all done and just stretch this around and staple it on the back. So even though this image looks really big, parts of it are going to get lost when we bend it around. So here we go. And this doesn't have to be perfect because the drawing's all going to happen later. But I do want to get this nice big head here. And a lot of times when I'm drawing, I like to hold the pencil in this position. Not necessarily the way we've been taught in grade school. I just love this side position. And see, I'm not going to get into the detail. I just want these nice big shapes. This one's going to overlap. And probably come around about here. I wanted this one bigger, this one smaller, and then we're going to have these fun movement that's coming through here. And then we're going to have all kinds of wonderful old leaves, just pretty much dead old leaves, but the shapes are wonderful. And I like them overlapping each other and coming down. So this is all I need to get started. One of the products I'm going to be using is Yes Paste. And I actually have a tip that tells you how to take this very thick Yes Paste and reduce it down to this lean paste that I'm going to be using. And I like this because it's acid-free, archival, and the biggest reason I like it is because once it dries, it actually leaves a workable surface. So this is fabulous. Oh, and you're also going to see me use another product that I really like, and that's called the Cold Press Ground by Golden. Its actual name is QOR. And the reason I like this is because when it dries, it has a paper-like surface, much like cold press watercolor. And you can also put it on thick or thin, and this also functions as a glue. Just be careful you get the cold press ground. It also comes in another one called watercolor ground. I don't like that one. That one takes 72 hours to dry and you have to do 3 coats. This one, as soon as it's dry, it's ready to go. Okay, so I'm not actually doing the drawing yet. What I'm doing is having a little fun preparing this surface. Because there's not a lot of color in my subject, I thought it would be fun just to add a lot of texture. So I'm just going to start by gluing down some of these lovely textures, and then I'm going to build them up with that really thick paste. So for starters, I'm just going to put down some of this texture. Same here, kind of comes around here. This is my Yes Paste. Love this stuff. It's pretty hard to beat Yes Paste. Now this 10-gram Unryu is so lightweight, you don't even have to put the glue down first. You can put the glue on top of it and it will go right through. It's a really nice feature. Now this paper, this happens to be a very heavy paper. This one I have to put some glue down first. So I'm just going to put some glue down here and glue this down. Glue on top. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I'm just going to select a few of these. I like it's kind of glitzy. I like the golden colors. So again, we have to glue first and then put this down. Now the jelly papers are really wonderful. And I just selected a few that I thought might work. Here's some lovely textures. Now this jelly paper is on an unwaxed paper that I bought through Amazon. And you're going to get a bunch of those too. And this is going to require putting glue down first. And then glue again on top. And again, I just love this kind of ghost-like quality here. Just going to put it down. We'll see how it fits in later. Oh, and I love this. These colors are perfect. Now, when you're working with the jelly paper, you have to put it down first and then glue on top. And it lays down so beautifully. I love this stuff. Glue first, then the paper. It's absolutely transparent, so when it goes over the top of another piece, you see them both. It doesn't cover it up. Nice. Let's see about these colors here. These are kind of nice. Still earthy. This is on an Unryu paper, so I can place these wherever I want and just glue on top. Don't you love these little surprises? I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to glue this down, and I'm kind of random because I'm not sure where I'm going to be drawing yet. That's the fun part. We're just going to glue these down and go for it. Now, I don't want to overdo it, so I'm just going to do a little selection. Isn't that pretty? I might have to put a little bit of this down. The colors match. So I'm going to do maybe off to the side here. But it's hard to remember this. You have, when you're doing jelly papers, you have to put it down first. And then glue on top. And I've got another one coming out over here. Right about in here. Good. Now these papers are really fun. This is the Unryu, and I have these fun black lines. Let's look at the picture here and see. I think it might be nice to have some of these lines just crisscrossing around here. And I'm going to take your eye off the page over here And these are on Unryu, so I don't have to put the glue down first. I can just... So I'm going to have just a few more. I think maybe over here. Maybe a few right in here. Now, lots of these are going to get lost when I start putting down the textures. So you'll recognize this one. I'm going to pull some of this off. And I always like to go off in several directions. So I think what I'll do is maybe pull it off the page up here. Oh, see, I knew that was going to make a nice texture. And my favorite one is always the lightest one. So I'm going to put just a little more over here too. Pulling it off the page. Now comes the real fun. This is the Ogura paper. And this can be just pulled apart, and it has the most beautiful, beautiful textures and fibers. Oh, I love this stuff. So now we're going to get serious. We're going to take our cold press ground, and I'm just going to dig in here. You can see how thick it is. It's totally thick. It's a glue and a gesso. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this right over this. And as I glue this down, I'm going to put it right, I especially want this real textured, fibered paper right here in the center of that big head of sunflower there. Oops, I keep reaching for that. So I put a little gesso down, and then I put this into it. Put a little down, put this into it. And when this dries, I'm also going to get it really thick. I'm going to build it up into big textures. Oh, I love this. Right on top of this color that I put down earlier. So see, we're only going to have remnants of the color left. The whole idea is to build up texture. There. Now, if you find you're having a hard time getting this to stick, put it down first. Every now and then I'll stick my brush in just water to lean it up a little bit. You can see how thick it is. But I want to build up these lovely textures, both with the Ogura and with the gesso. Oops, so put a little down first, put this on top of it, add some more. Oh yeah, we're doing, this is fun. So I'm going to go ahead and do both of these heads. I'll move in a little closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just ripping off some of this, kind of pulling it apart. Just digging out some of this. Put this down. Okay, so now I'm thinking about some of these long dried up petals out here, and I'm using this palette knife. Oh, this is fun. So I'm just sliding it along here and creating lovely textures going right over those patterns I glued down. So you can see just a little remnant of that is left. But that's really all I wanted. So I'm just going to go ahead now and get some more of this texture going. We've got some more petals coming down here. And another petal over here. And the actual stem coming back here. So it was nice having that little bit of a drawing to give me a guide. So I'm just going to do a few more of these petals. And then we're going to let this dry and we'll go ahead and do the drawing. And I'd always like to have something going off the page. So up here, I'm just probably going to design something just so there's something to wrap around. And we've got a lot of space here with nothing happening, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of texture. Now the last texture I want to work with is the Unryu paper. And this time, I'm actually going to go back to my brush. I'm going to use my brush, and I'm going to take this same product, the gesso, and I'm going to just put this down and let it fold up and crinkle and give me some lovely textures. Just a little bit of this. Put this down, let it fold over. You can also do this with your Yes paste if you want to. Just put this down, let it fold over, and don't worry about what's going to be there. We're just preparing the surface. Actually, I like the Yes paste better. I think I'll do a little bit more of that. So a little Yes paste, put this down, let it fold, and just let that Yes paste penetrate through there. Oh yeah. We're almost done. We need to have a few things just sticking out here. I love the texture. I can see already that this is going to turn out to be a fun piece. And this is what I'm looking at. This lovely cone. So what else do I need to do for texture? I think just a little bit coming off down here would be good. Fold it over. Don't worry how big it is. If it folds 2, 3, 4 times, as long as that glue penetrates, you're fine. Now you always think, well, I'm not doing anything, but you know what? When we paint later, you're going to see these lovely textures. So be generous. Take your time. And I think that's going to do it. So now tomorrow, when this is dry, I'm really looking forward to drawing this. So, see you later. I love to draw. I draw almost every day. And I was trying to think of how can I start my online class? And I thought, well, drawing would be a perfect start, but then what should I draw? Well, that became a no-brainer. I absolutely love sunflowers. I've had a love affair with sunflowers for many, many years. And you can see here I have some photographs that I've taken through the summer. Actually, I've got a lot more than this. And they're fantastic. These guys are actually really small, but when you move in, I had to almost get down on the ground. You can see the grass growing. But they look monumental just when you get in close like this. And this particular one is one of my favorites. You can see here that it was just a single sunflower growing outside of Abel's bookstore. And I just absolutely love this, seeing it every day. You can see the seeds now are starting to come out. So I've been drawing that one. But what I really wanted to do was to draw these old dried up heads and get a lot of texture into my drawing. And thanks to Jonas, my production manager, he went down and asked permission to pick a couple of these. And they're sitting right here in front of me. So we're going to get started with the drawing. And I have the Staedtler pen. It's a permanent pen, archival. It's a German ink, excellent. I've been using this pen for over 30 years. And I have paint drawings at home that I've done that have no deterioration at all. It's an excellent pen. So looking at my subject, I already did kind of a little layout with all of the texture yesterday, and it's bone dry now. That's very important. This pen will not function if there's any moisture on the paper. So what I want to do is kind of start with the biggest head here. And I like the position. It's in that thirds that we talked about. So this is like the main focus here. So I'm just going to start drawing. And it's really kind of fun, some of the scratchy sounds you're going to hear, because this is a really bumpy surface. And what I want to do is I want to exaggerate what's here. Some of these aren't quite this big, but I just love that look. And some are real skinny, and I thought I'd just go a little darker. So I'm going to work with some tonal washes at the same time. And I want to be sure I've got the shape here. And I do, this one is really long. Oh, I love it. So I'm going to add some additional lines in some. Others I'm going to actually fill them in so they're dark. And when we're completely done with the drawing, I'm going to paint it. Can't wait. It's kind of fun having these little remnants of color that are left from my preparation. Every now and then I love to have it come into the subject itself, into the big head. I just love these. They're a little hard to draw. That's where I've got the bumpiest stuff. So you can see I'm always changing the direction. Sometimes they're going outside, sometimes they're crossing over. This is really important. How much variety can you get? And I really want this to look kind of spontaneous. I want it to look like I had a good time drawing it, which I am. I should be nervous, but I'm not. I couldn't wait to do this. And I think when we get here now, I'm going to want to pull some of these almost off the page. So I'm really going to exaggerate it a little bit. Some of these are just very small. They've dried up quite a bit. Then we do have this wonderful leaf, and you can see what they look like. Wow. This is kind of similar to what I'm drawing over here. It's rolled in a bit. So see, we want to show that part of this is rolled in. And then we'll come in and draw the other part. See, as this rolls around, now it's crossing over again. So to show that this is an inner part here, I'm going to put some dark into that. And then even down here, ooh, I love that. Now I've turned this leaf over here, and I'm going to do something with this that you've never seen before. I'm actually going to stretch this over a frame, so it's going to be really cool. Now right in here, I've got the second lovely sunflower that's overlapping. And that's a very important thing to do. Whenever you draw subjects, you need to overlap them. You don't want everything separated by a similar size space. That's a bad thing to do. So you always try to get this overlap. So this is this sunflower. I'm trying to get some of the texture of the seeds going here. And then I'm trying to get the position of this one. It's really fun having this random texture under here. I absolutely love it. Now it's time to do a nice long one. You know, when these flowers are fresh, all the petals seem the same. They're all the same. Some people paint them all the same. But right now, these petals are going in all directions. And just think, this whole thing, the whole summer long, has been turning and following the sun. And one of the things I noticed when I was out in the fields of sunflowers in France, as it got later in the season, these guys turned any which way they felt like. So there's a good lesson there for us. As we get older, we can turn any way we want. Just do your own thing. So now I've got a stem coming out here. And they're really quite thick. They're very heavy. And they have lines. So now you can see the position of my two sunflowers. And one of the things I want to do is I want to have now these wonderful linear shapes. Those poor things. A lot of the leaves have fallen off. And I love this. They're going in all different directions. And then right about here, I want to start, so if you look at this pattern, I want to start this tumble here of the leaves interlocking with one another. And I might even do this little one sitting here on the tabletop. So that's what I'm looking at right now, is this tumble here. So I'm going to have this stem continue. Then growing out from the stem here is going to be, oh, here, I'll do this one, coming down. It's going to be this lovely tumble, long, dried up leaf. Wow, that's beautiful. You can see, when you look at them, you can see some of the veins coming. They're very pronounced. I love it. So I'm trying to get that feeling of those veins coming in. Now I'm going to make this one in front of the others. So now I'm going to have another leaf behind here. See, and this is kind of fun. I've already got some of that color on it. Now I'm going to have this leaf turning. I think what we'll do is we'll just move in a little closer here so you can see, kind of see what I'm doing. I'm looking at this leaf right here. And again, it's got those lovely veins. A little darker here, and I've just given myself permission to come in and do some cross hatching. It's so much fun. And of course, it's going to be darker here. I can do that later with paint, but I like to do it now too. So this is getting to be even more fun. Now we've got the petals interlocking with the leaf. This leaf is interlocking with this leaf. And now it's time to think about drawing in another leaf here. So I'm just going to have one come up here. And down around here. It's got that strong pattern going through it. Oh, I love it. I love it. And every now and then you can just have some little dried up shapes coming off of it. You can even have holes in it. So now I'm happy with this kind of leading us all the way to the edge of the paper. So I'm trying to get the overall feel. I'll take it back again. So we do have this one represented. We need another stem here coming off. These are great. And some of these stems I'm going to make dark too. They just look great. And these can interlock with each other. And now this could be, I drew this in, so I'm going to make this into another stem that comes out over here. See, See, there's one here. So I'm looking at this one right here. And this is cool because this one actually does have holes in it. So this would look good at quite dark. And we can show some of the holes. And I'll make the stem dark so it looks like it's going behind the other one. So I need to give this one a stem now. And it's kind of unusual. The stem actually comes across like this and straight forward. So I'm thinking about making it just a little bit different. I gotta be careful. One thing I don't want to do is make it into two parallel lines. I avoid that at all risk. So I think what I'll do is I'm just gonna come in here. And I can't make a bend in it either. They're pretty solid. Let's face it. They're very solid and big. So there we have another stem for this. I even thought about showing the back of this one because the back of them, oh, it's so interesting. And see, I still have all these wonderful seeds to do. So now we've got our two stems, and actually they're more parallel than I wanted them to be. So what I'm going to do, whenever I have this problem, what I do is I come in and break it up with a leaf. So again, we're going to have a lovely leaf. In fact, we've got one anyway. See, that leaf is crossing over. It's going to have some nice stem work. Oh, I love this. And because I drew some of that line in there, I'm going to have to kind of eliminate it. We'll figure out a way. And this is my favorite part, is when they kind of turn around like this. Nice. Well, that's going to help. Another thing that's going to help is to create some lines that are in a counter movement. So actually, a lot of these, the leaves have fallen off, and all that's left is the stem where it connects. Now I'm ready to do just a little minimum amount of drawing through here. And I'm thinking about maybe some of these dark stems. Gotta be careful, I'm doing a similar movement again. So we'll just keep this going. And we'll turn this one the other way. There we go, that helps. And we're ready to do maybe one more leaf shape here. So I'm going to come in This is one of those cool ones. It's got these lines. I love the lines. And I love it when it changes direction. And see, what's going to happen here is a lot of this is going to be in the fold when I put it around. So right now I'm going to start drawing in a lot of the seeds. And you can see this one's really built up. The seeds have really developed. This one's flatter. This has really built up. I don't know if I'll be able to portray that. Sure. I've got a lot of texture here. You can hear it. So after I draw some of these long stringy shapes, I'm going to start putting in the seeds, kind of lined up like this. And same over here. These seeds spiral around. So I'm going to start working on that. Now I'm looking at the overall shape again. I'm thinking about one more leaf shape. And I love it. See, we've got these touching the edges. This, we're not touching up here. These are lining up almost the same. So I need to pull something, another stem, that's going to take us right off the top. Ah, that was easy. So we're going off here, and I think I need to do just a little skinny one here. I don't even have to have the whole leaf. See, I can have just kind of a long stem, and then the start of this, and it curls around. Over here it just goes, curls around. And I can make it a little darker inside here. And now I'm happy. Now I'm happy. I've got a nice exit. I'm touching, touching, and touching. But I'm not happy about these two things coming off in parallel lines. The very thing I talked about. Oh my gosh, this is scary. So I'm going to have to do something coming up here. Crossing over. It could go behind it. Could just be a small remnant of a leaf. The other thing I could do would be to kind of put some kind of a leaf here that could go over this one and under this one, coming from another. Doesn't have to be attached here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here, go under that, and then just go over this completely. So somehow we're going to get this to work out. There. So, I'm actually quite pleased with my drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this drawing so we can paint it. Well, the good news about drawing is there is no right or wrong way to draw. There's just the way you draw. And everything you draw is going to be unique. So I really did enjoy the drawing today, and now it's time to think about painting it. And so my first thought, in fact, throughout this whole process, I've been thinking about how I'm really going to splash in the color, combine it with the collage, get some nice contrast. And now all of a sudden I'm going, no, that's too much. So then I thought, well, maybe I'll just limit the color and pour a charcoal wash. This is a very cool thing. It's a powdered charcoal. You put it on a wet surface and you just pour water over it and it creates these lovely textures. Then I thought, oh, that texture with all this texture, it would be too much. So I put that aside. Then I thought about just doing all white background. And I'm still thinking about that. I like the simplicity of this. You've got the dynamic colors of the subject and then just the plain background. And then here's another one. This is on canvas. You'll be seeing this in a few episodes. But here you can see I've had a lot of fun adding texture. These are some of the same papers I've got in this one, the Ogura and the Unryu. So I let that be an influence. Then I remembered this great photo that I found on the internet with the cobwebs. Oh, look at that beautiful earthy green background with that really high contrast. So you've got basically about 3 values here. And you know what? This is what influenced me right here. This idea of limiting it to 3 values, going from the dark, mid-tone to light. So here we go. I got a plan. I'm going to mix a beautiful sepia tone using my Quinacridone burnt orange, and I'm going to get a nice big wash of this. Big puddle. Then I'm going to have a nice big puddle over here of French ultramarine blue. And these two colors make a beautiful either dark brown or black, depending on how much blue you've got in it. So you can see the combination is absolutely beautiful. And what I want is a lot of this beautiful rich brown here. That's the color I'm looking for. So I'm going to start in with some of these dark tones here. And I'm going to start here along here, but I'm also going to come in with some water. Oh boy, and this is where the fun begins, because there's so much texture here. And I might even charge in a little more warmth now and then. Oh yeah, I love the texture. So we can go all the way from black into some lovely mid-tones. So as long as my paper stays dry, I can control where this paint is going to flow. I can even touch this in and just let it roll, because see, it's only going to go where it's wet. even just throw a little hint of some, this is my Quinacridone Gold. I might just tap some of that in there, just to give it a little more life. And a little more of the orange. Okay, so now we've got a little yellow. I'm going to intensify the orange. Okay, what I've tried to do with this part right here is to get the feeling that there's a little more light up here. So you can see I actually took some pure yellow and threw it in up here. And then I added some pure Quinacridone burnt orange in the next layer, just to build up the 3-value system, where we're going from the white of the paper to the yellow tones, then into these warmer, darker values, and then eventually I'm mixing it with the French Ultramarine blue to get this really strong dark. And then I want to get that really strong dark closer to the edge, because the big thing is I'm going to pop out these light petals. So this will be the last thing I do. Pull in the darkest darks over here. And I can even go all the way to a really dark brown, almost a black. And then some of these fun things can get a start. Oh yeah, oh, this is almost exactly what I had in mind. These lovely dark shapes. Ready to move on to the other head, and if you look at it, see, it's considerably darker in value. This has got better light, and so I tried to capture a little bit of that feeling. But I'm going to go really dark now and pop out these lovely light areas here. So to get really dark, I decided to squeeze some paint out fresh. I very seldom use fresh paint, but with such a limited palette, this is a really good idea. So now I've got a really rich Quin burnt orange and a really rich French ultramarine blue. And see, when you put these two together, you get this beautiful dark. And that's what I'm looking for. So right now, I'm looking to get this one here really nice and dark. And there's a lot of texture in here. I love that. So I basically paint around some of the seeds. And just come in here and define those petals. Every now and then I grab a little water because I love the way it settles into this. And I might even just throw in a little of that pure color again too, because it's so pretty. so much texture here, I can just get this by doing it, just scraping over the top. That's great. Now I'm going to sprinkle in some pure Quinacridone burnt orange. Yes, yes, just pure. And maybe a little Quin Gold. Not maybe, I'm really doing it. But whether you can see it or not is the next issue. Oh yeah. But I don't always like to work with mixed color, as you'll see. I do a lot of color, mixing it on the paper. So I'm going to do some more pure Quinacridone burnt orange. Beautiful color. It's my substitute for burnt sienna. I think I need more darks here. I might just come in and paint these all dark. I like that. And I think I'll paint this dark leading us off the page here. And this is so full of texture, I can just put the paint down and let it go flow into the texture. Nice. Now I want to be sure that this reads much darker, so I'm just going to keep building it up. I'm looking at my subject and I'm looking at my photograph, and I actually like this really strong dark pattern back here. So I'm just going to come in and put in some of these really strong darks. Remember, this is the one that had holes in it? Now as it goes across, I'll keep it lighter. And I like this one, dark, going off the page. Yes. Then if I want to, I can just sort of lighten this. Just let the color run across. Maybe intensify some of the color, a little more Quin burnt orange. Dry a little lighter, I like to come in and just push it a little bit darker. So there we have pretty much the first wash. I just noticed this one's been getting neglected. It's because here's the whole picture. I just love the textures that happen from our textural underpainting, the ones we glued down. Fabulous. Well, we're actually at a stopping point now, and we're going to let this dry, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to use for my mid-tone value, and possibly adding a little more collage at the end. We'll see. I've been looking at the overall design here, and the very thing I wanted to avoid has happened. These parallel lines. I can't believe I talked about it, and I did it. And now I've got to figure out a way to change it, because with pen lines you can't just up and change it. So I think the best thing to do is to somehow cover up this particular line, so you don't really notice those two shooting off the edge of the paper. I have to remember that this is going to be considerably smaller when we roll this. So I think what I'll do, oh, I think I may have found it right there. I think I'm just going to come in with another loop, which will crisscross here. See, these are both ending at the same point, so I'm going to pull it down a little bit further. Much better. Now these are lining up. Let's see, what else can I do? So the important thing is to cover this, to take your, and this part's going around the edge, so I like that. So what I'll do is I'll just pull this up and attach it there. I'll attach it here, and then this will come down, and it's kind of nice now, it's in between. And one of the things I like about this design is this triad, and I like the way it goes off the paper and forms this nice lead-in. You're entertained here with the overlapping, takes us off the page, we can come back in again, go off the page, come in again over here. Those are all things I think about when I'm designing a particular composition. Can the viewer get out and back in again? And this is working pretty well. So I'm going to go off camera and draw that in and paint it, and when I come back we'll finish the picture. Well, we're down to the exciting part now. You can see that I came in and added this here and tried not to make parallel lines again by angling it up here and then making it longer than this one. And I actually like the relationship in there now. So I'm ready to think about my final darks and lights and midtones. So for the midtone, I'm going to fill in the background quite a bit. So I do want to have some nice contrast here. I love these light, light, light ones. So I thought, you know what, I just need to draw a few more, because every one of these that I draw is going to be a lovely saved light. So for example, if I want to come in and just design a few more of these, yes, and maybe another one over here, because see, they're there, kind of, and give them, sometimes they're kind of fat with these little ones in front. Other times they're a little skinny, very skinny. And because they're going to be the lightest light, they're going to draw attention. So I think this is an important step right now. And I see there's a lovely one up here. So I'm just going to come in here and draw a really nice long one. Oh, yes. Maybe another one over here. A little skinny one. Like I say, every one of these is going to make a difference. I think another one in here is about all we'll need. So I'll do it right here. So So now we have 3 of them here. That's kind of cool. 1, 2, 3. So now I have to be sure I know what all of these sharp shapes are. This one. So I'm just doing a quick little check. Oh, this one could use another side. You never know. Because once I start this background, I've got to keep going. I can't decide then where they are. We're ready. Let's go. So I can't really wet it all. I have to wet around everything. It's pure negative painting. I decided to use Quinacridone Gold. Remember the one I looked at earlier was a kind of a green color. And I think a green would be attractive too, but I'm going to go for gold. And Quin Gold is the color. Now if I find it's too bright, then what I'll do is take a little bit of permanent magenta and blend it together. Permanent magenta is the complement. So if I just put a little bit of permanent magenta in with this gold, I'll get kind of a grayed down gold. So we're going to see how it looks. I'm going to start with the pure color. Ooh, it's pretty. And I know I'm going to have a lot of fun when I get to the part where there's a lot of texture. Yeah, I like the contrast already. Yep, we'll keep looking. See, now over here there's all kinds of fun stuff. Textures that were in there from before. Oh, I love it. Now I could decide to lose some of these edges, but I do have to go around these. So see, I use that as an opportunity to stop. I can pick it up again, and meanwhile I can come over here and pop out these lovely little white ones here. But when your paper's dry, and you're doing wet on dry like this, oh my goodness, does it just dries so fast, it's crazy. So you gotta move fast. Oh, just what I was hoping for. I love the way those are popping out. Now I think I might choose to go just a little bit lighter. See, if I wet this and then push my way back in, I can have that outer area a little bit lighter, a little bit darker through. And I'm thinking about adding another little textural device. So I'm going to put right here, and this is just table salt. So I'm just going to put a little bit of table salt in here. And here you can see the lovely separation just from the earlier textures we put down. Oh, this is going to be fun. And we're coming into another really textured area here. A little bit lighter there on the edge. So I like to have a tissue handy. Take off some of the moisture from my brush. See how those, oh, look at those lovely textures. I'll just put a little flick of salt there. Now this is kind of a complicated area. Who's on first? Okay, that's a petal. Oh, I love those textures. I should have put more. See, I haven't done it before, so I wasn't sure how much I could get by with. But that's what's fun, taking risks. That's what's fun. I do it all the time, and I never regret it. That's how you learn. I'm painting the wrong thing here. That'll teach me. Okay, so now we're gonna, see, here's another good stopping point. Wet my brush, shake it out, touch it. So I don't, if I come in here with too much water, see, I'm gonna form a bleed back. So I have to just lose that with enough water on my brush that it's not gonna form a big bleed back. And then I'm gonna put just a little salt in it too. Oh, this is fun. I think I'm gonna work right through the center here. From the center out. I like to do that. So I should have a lot of texture in here. Now this is just straight Quin Gold. And I'm loving it. I think it works really nice. And I'm glad I took the time to figure out who's on first there. I couldn't figure that out last minute. I'm going to push it just a little bit darker when I'm close to my subject here, and lighten it a bit as I move out. Really got texture going. Now when you do this piecemeal like this, you have to be sure that this color matches this color. And see, this is dry and this isn't. And this is going to dry 20% lighter. So you just have to make a good guess. This is great. Oh, I wish I'd have done more texture. Oh man, I love the texture. I'm going to bring this in. See, I'm going to bring this in close. Look at that lovely texture. You can see here how cool it is. A lot of this was done with the palette knife. Again, I like to just come in, soften it a little bit, go a little bit lighter towards the edge. That's cool. So now I've got my brush just wet, took off a little of the extra moisture, and now I'm just going to smooth this out. Pick up some of this and just create some additional texture. I kind of like doing this because it gives it little miniature bleed backs. Kind of fun. And I think those are going to look enough alike. We love those textures. And a little salt. Well, there we go. It's time to evaluate. How's it looking? Actually, all my corners are kind of triangles. I've decided I better just fix that right now. So I'm just going to pull this color out here. That looks better. Guess I'll do the same over here too. Seemed like a good idea at the time, but I actually like it better with the color, with that color, additional color added. How about this one? Yeah. Let's come in and do that one too. I do like the salt. And you can see some of the little mini bleed backs I created. It's okay. I like them actually. Well, one of the things I wanted to accomplish were these extra white and extra dark with the mid-tone. So it's kind of cool. And after this dries and I have time to evaluate it a little more, I'm still thinking about adding some collage, and I may just decide to lift out a little bit of color because there's just tons of texture here, and like a magic eraser, and there's a lot of little tricks I can show you yet. Well, I've been looking at my drawing and painting and evaluating any troubleshooting. And one of the things I think I have to do is this parallel business, this parallel line business. I'll show you what happened. When I started out with this project, I had done a quick sketch here. And see, I did this crisscross. And all I could see was where they crossed here. And I thought, well, I don't want that to happen. So I thought I would just find a new direction for this one. And I remember I even mentioned, we're talking about don't do parallel lines. Well, there they are. So this has really helped. You can see now where I've added this. And now I've decided what I need to do is to break up this long line. You see most of it. It needs to be hidden. So I'm going to do another leaf shape coming in from off the page, which could happen very easily, and interlock it with this leaf. So I'm going to draw and paint that in. And if you look at the photo, look how lovely those work. See, you don't even notice the crisscrossing. And I love this tumble of leaves coming down. So I need a few more leaves anyway to come down. So that I'm going to take care of. And it's like you can see, I'm just going to come in. I'm drawing with my pen right now. And I'm just going to have this lovely shape. And I love the way it goes over and under. And then it's just going to come around, come down here, interlock with this. It's going to make a really big difference. I'll just add another little thing here. So you can see it's going to give us a nice interlocking shape. It'll just go off the page here. So I'll paint that in. And then the other thing that I'm really excited about doing is to come in and tone these. You can see they're just too white, too bright. They need a little bit of toning. So for the color, you'll remember this background color is Quin Gold. And it's a very bright, really attention-getting color. I did do a little bit of toning with a little bit of the permanent magenta, which is the complement. So we do have a little bit of toning there. But what we need now is a second yellow. So I've chosen raw sienna. This is a beautiful transparent color. and it's dug out of the earth, so it's perfect. It's earthy. I'm trying to keep this in a very earthy stage. So what we're going to do is put down this color. Oh yeah. And I don't want to overdo it. I want it to be basically quite light, but I just want it sort of toned, so they're not stark white. So this is lovely. And again, if I want to, I can put a little permanent magenta. Always remember, complements dull the color, push it back a little bit. I might just go a little bit darker here. And then when they're behind, of course, they're going to be just a little bit darker. So we'll tone that. And there's a lot of texture on some of these. I love that. I'm going to like the way the texture settles in. See, I like it better already. And we'll just keep going here. So you can see that I have not, at this stage, completely painted the piece. I'm still leaving those tips and some part of it with a little bit of white. And if I want to, I can go a little bit darker at the base. Here, right now I'm adding a little bit of the Quin Gold just to make it a little darker at the base. Here you can see I hit some of that lovely collage paper. Ooh, I love that. So again, we're just going to go back now to our raw sienna. Whenever you're behind another petal, make it darker. Oh, it looks so much better now, toned. Now we're ready to come in with just a little bit of the Q Gold at the base to make it a little darker. Yes, that's working quite well. Right at the base, a little bit of the Quin Gold. If the edges look crisp, just soften them. If they look like they need to be a little bit darker, go into your permanent magenta. So when I do this next one, I'm going to come in a little closer. There. Same thing. Start at the base with your raw sienna. Oh, I love all this texture. If you see any hard edges, soften them. Don't keep those raw hard edges. Don't keep the hard edges. Soften them. Important. We want to save those whites. Now I'm going to go in with my little bit of Quin Gold. You can see Quin Gold is a much more aggressive color, a lot darker, and I need that at the base. So I'm putting it down here at the base to give me a nice contrast. Soften, soften. And then if we need some additional dark, a little permanent magenta. And that is going to give us that nice gray, that nice dark that we need. Now the gold. Now just a little bit of magenta. And now we're going to soften the edges. And this is the trick. Wet your brush, shake it out, take out a little bit of that extra moisture. Always start outside, work back, and we'll just kind of soften this whole thing together. That really bright purple, we're just kind of move it around a bit. Soften the edges. Well, there you have it. I'm really enjoying this. Now you can see the entire piece. It really makes a difference. Well, when we come back, we're going to deal with some cast shadows and maybe a little collage. Well, here we are, the last steps, bringing us closer to completion. I originally thought about this as having a lot more collage paper. And I have some beautiful collage papers that I was looking forward to using. However, as this project developed, it just seemed to get more and more realistic. You can see by the original, this is what I was looking at while I was drawing. And we really didn't deal with any cast shadows. We've got such excellent light here. There's no source of light. But I just got the idea that they look like they're floating. So I really like anchoring my pieces with cast shadows. So this is an important thing to keep open to as you do your painting. That these paintings take on a life of their own. So it's very important to actually use this opportunity to make some changes. And this is what happened. We actually took a light source and directed it. And when I saw these beautiful cast shadows and the way it helped settle the painting. So you can see now they're just floating. And I really think anchoring this with some shadows is going to be beautiful. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got a little piece of paper here. I'm going to take similar colors to what we are working with. This is my Quinacridone Gold. One of my favorite colors, as you'll find out. And Permanent Magenta. Now these are complementary colors. When you mix these two colors together, you get a beautiful gray with a purple accent. And we can add more and more gold to it. We could even add raw sienna. And I think this is going to look really nice for our shadow. So we just have to kind of determine how dark a value we want to do. I think it's going to be perfect. So the more and more magenta that we add, the darker of course it's going to be. The more gold we add, the lighter it's going to be. So let's hold these next to it and see what we like. I think we're going to have to go a little bit darker. Let's try a little more magenta. I just don't want to get too purple. Ooh, we're getting into the purple range. Another thing we could do is to take French Ultramarine blue. This is French Ultramarine blue. And when we add that into the mix, you can see, of course, it's going to become much darker and browner. except I still like that purple hint. I definitely like the purple. So, oh, that's like perfect. I think these would be jumping off the page and competing with all this texture. So I think this darker one is going to work. I decided to squeeze out fresh paint. So I'm going to give myself a squeeze of Quinacridone Gold. And I'm also going to use some Quinacridone Burnt Orange. These are both Daniel Smith. And the other one is French Ultramarine Blue. And when you have to have this big of a mixture, it's always a good idea to squeeze it out fresh. So we'll just start with our gold. Pull that in. And then we're going to go with the magenta. Ooh, this is going to be fun. And a little bit of blue, not too much, just enough to give us the dark. And I still want to keep it in a purpley tone because yellow and purple are complements, and that always makes such a great color combination. Well, here we go. I'm really excited about this. Oh, this is going to really make it. So I never do any kind of pre-drawing when I do this. It's just done, you just wing it. It's very important. You just wing it. So this is kind of a fun one. I like this little loop. And then in here we have basically all one big shadow. Now I gotta check this again. It's looking, well, I think I want just a little bit more purple. Yeah, I'm gonna put some more purple in it. And there's some fun shadows, like from the curly cues here. Oh, this is the best part. This is going to cast a shadow. Again, I'm going to push it a little purpler. Here we go. Better. Now these edges are all pretty hard. Cast shadows are hard shadows. Here is my shadows don't necessarily match up with what's in front of me, but you know what, we just have to make a few of these up. Nobody will ever know. Just try to make it believable. Need to push this purple a little bit more because my mixture isn't consistent, and I do like that purple cast. And I'm having a good time going over a lot of these textures that are just part of it from the underpainting, the under preparation. So we're going to have a few, I don't know what to do with these guys. think I'm going to stop and evaluate this a little bit. And when we come back, the most exciting part of all, we're going to actually stretch this over the frame. We're going to show you how to wet the back, and just using a frame that we've prepared for this, we're going to stretch this entire piece over a frame and then present it like an acrylic or an oil painting. So I'll be right back.
All right, so mounting Arch's 140-pound cold press on wooden strainer stock, 1 inch thick. First thing is to determine where the top is. Top of the painting is up here, and we'll mark that so we don't forget it. Let's put a little arrow pointing up. So I'm not going to forget that. Now, the strainer stock is 3 inches less than the paper, so we're going to have 1.5 inches all around. So 1 inch for the side and then 1/2 inch. Strainer stock has a little bump on the top. That's so when you stretch it, the paper spreads over the top and touches as little wood as possible. So we'll set this up here to be equal all the way around. About 1 5/8 inches, 1.5 inches. Right there. And there. And there. And there. Okay. I'm going to make some lines here. Helps me keep it straight while doing the stretching. Now that we have our lines, we're going to dampen it. Got a sponge and some warm water. We're going to get it nice and soft. That's why I have this more or less waterproof material underneath. You don't want to get the top of the painting wet because then the paint will run and get real moist. So it softens up during the stretching, and then after the stretching, when it dries out, it will tighten. Be nice and tight when we're done. All right. All right. Strainer stock has the top and the bottom, so I set this back on the lines. The orientation of this painting is horizontal, and so we're going to finish up the top and the bottoms before wrapping the ends around on the corners. You'll see that later. But we always going to pre-crease the front. All right, we're going to start with the top. Pre-crease that. Now, whenever you do this, whether it's paper or canvas, always start from the middles and work out. So, a couple nice, and there. This is just a regular old staple tacker at any hardware store. All right, now putting a little strain on this, pulling the paper and pushing on the wood, and then wrapping it around tight like that. The staples, you'll notice, go in at an angle, never across, never up and down. It's stronger that way and works with the grain of the wood. Now, same thing on the side. Pre-crease. You can see that we're losing a little paint off the surface here. So I don't, just in case I come back that direction again, I'll keep that dry. Okay, now the other side. Pull that and wrap it. It's nice to have at least a 1/2 inch of wraparound if you can get it. Anything else might make it a little bit hard to work with. All right, now that the centers are done, we do the same thing, just working along both edges. Keep on stretching it. Alright, then hop over to the other side. Yeah, stretching that. Takes a bit of finger strength. Okay, now I'm going to put one more on the edges. You don't want to get your final edge too close to the corner, as you will see, because there won't be enough room for you to wrap the corner. You'll see that when I get there. So I'm going to stop here on the edges. I usually work to music. I'm humming The Shadow of Your Smile right now. Okay, now I can finish up the top and the bottom. It's staying nice and moist, that's a good thing. Yeah, it's easier to work with this when you're standing. You can bear down on it, use your weight. Yeah, don't be afraid to use a lot of staples. All right, now we're coming to the part about wrapping it. All right, now this is called a bone or a fid. Any smooth piece of utility will work. So I'm going to crease this corner at a 45-degree angle. Fold the bottom straight across. Make sure I don't want to push that in there yet. And then bend this over. You'll notice if it's done at the right angle, your edge will be parallel to the edge of the strainer stock. So I'm using this bone to crease it and flatten it. And then I'm going to put one staple on the edge just to hold it still. Alright, here comes the tricky part. And pull this back and curl that up. And fold this together. So now the crease is here, and it won't be seen from the side once you've hung it on the wall or wherever it ends up. The fold is only seen from the bottom or the top. So pull that up and do the same thing we did on the other side. There you go. One down, 3 to go. Putting a little crease in at the 45, flattening the bottom edge around. curving it down like that. Flattening it down. Tacking it. I've got to. That's just to hold it still. Don't tack it up here because you won't be able to do this. So it's tearing a little bit, but you won't ever see it. Sometimes it works. It's actually getting a little stiff. That's
See
all
your
right.
work, there's collage paper and gesso on that.
Yeah, it's very. So if you would use the same technique if you were doing canvas. Alright. Get a little more moisture on there because it's starting to stiffen up. Okay. Wrap that around. Fold it over. You know, I'm going to try and pull this up without stapling it this time. Because it gives me a little more flexibility. That worked real well. Alright, make sure you get that part flattened out. Alright. Alright. That was easy. Okay, and the last one. Let's soften that up a little bit here. Alright. Over. Oh yeah, I wasn't going to staple it. It worked really well last time not stapling it, so I can lift it up. So when you lift it up, you get this edge matching up with this edge, and then you'd be pretty sure that this fold will be perpendicular to the corner of your stock. Alright, almost done here. And my arrow telling me which way is up. And there it is. Now it's kind of floppy right now because it's still wet. But when it dries, it'll dry hard and tighten up. And after that's all done, you'll take your frame, which has already been, you can see, pre-drilled to put screws in from the back into the wood to hold the stock in place. The frame has been made so the inside is 1 inch larger than the stock itself, so we got a nice little 1/2 inch gap all the way around, and you can see from the sides. I'm Brad, down in the frame shop at Karlyn's Gallery, pleased to bring you this lesson on mounting pictures.
So I can't wait to share with you a marvelous product made by Krylon. Used to be called webbing spray, but of course they changed the name to marbleizing spray. And I can see why. It kind of looks like marbleizing. Anyway, it's an incredible product, And what you have to do is shake it really well. If it's spitting out, that's because you haven't properly shaken it. So just shake and shake and shake. And I've been working on this before we started. Now it's important to be standing up when you do this because you need that distance. Now you can see, I'm just going to do a quick little spray. So with my hand just wiggling it around like this. Isn't that fun? Up and down, back and forth. But you have to stand up. And what usually happens is I tell people, no, be sure to stand up. As soon as I leave, they do this. And then when they spray, they get that. Because you have to be standing so the webbing can separate. So just do a wonderful little, like this. Wiggle it back and forth. Little short spurts. But you don't just do you have to be moving. Just a little bit. So it's really kind of fun. And it comes in gold, silver, black, white. Okay, I'm going to take the gold marbleizing spray. And the thing is, this is in the tips. So if you ever want to go back and re-watch it, I go into quite a bit more detail on the tips on how to use marbleizing spray. Now this is my lesson from a prior lesson. And what I want to do is just put a little bit of gold on it. So I'm just going to stand here and give it a little shot. And this is the gold. It looks quite dark, but it's actually the gold. Come on. It never goes exactly where you want it. In fact, I usually make the sign of the cross before I start this. You just have to be hopeful it's going to go where you want it. Actually, I like it. One of the things I like is the random quality you get. When you control it, you worry too much about it. See, this is nice, just random. The very last thing that we're going to do is to put a finishing surface on here that will protect it. Remember now, this is just 140-pound cold press arches paper, and without the glass and mat and frame. Now that it's going to be exposed to the elements, we have to put a finish on it. The finish that I'm the most happy with is the gloss or matte Krylon clear acrylic coating. This is a fantastic product. You don't have to worry about this product yellowing. Like, you wouldn't want to go to Menards and just pick up a Krylon varnish. That would scare me. But Krylon purposely makes high quality archival products that you can count on. So this clear acrylic coating, you can see it already includes the UV resistant. Either one of these works beautifully. I've used them both, matte and gloss. I actually am a big fan of the gloss because a lot of that gloss gets absorbed into the surface of the paper, and it actually almost looks like a satin finish when you're done. Now, one of the things you want to remember to do is to step outside to do this. The piece has to be upright. Don't spray it on a flat table. It has to be upright so that your can and the surface here are exactly parallel to one another. When you're laying it on a table, you can see you don't have that relationship. So stand it up, go outside, check the wind, put the wind at your back, shake it well, and then we're going to begin the spraying. Now there is one famous error that people make, and that is they start spraying like this. They just spray the whole thing, not realizing that every time you stop and start on the edges, you're building up. I've actually seen drips running down on the side. So here is the proper way to do it. Shake it well, and as you come in, start your spray, and then release. Come back, release, release. And you just keep doing that until you've coated the entire side. Then you do the other side. Release, release, and so on. And don't forget to do your edges. I would say up and down a few times so you're catching the edge as well. Each time, repeat the same thing, do the edge, repeat, do the edge, and at this point now the front has 4 coats of this Krylon UV acrylic spray, and 4 coats is generally all you need. Now if you feel, oh, I don't know, I think I want to give it a little bit more, I would repeat the whole process. I'd take it all around again 4 times, and for sure you've got a good seal on it then. Another way that you can do a surface is with the Dorland's wax medium, and that is a fabulous product. I will be showing you how to do this later when we do our abstract with the watercolor on canvas. I frequently use this wax medium to finish a canvas piece. So it's excellent. Between either one of these, you can't go wrong. So I hope you enjoy this lesson. And you know, it doesn't have to be a lesson that you just prepared to do this. Let me show you something. This piece that's been sitting behind me, this is a full sheet watercolor that we stretched on this very deep, look how lovely. And isn't it amazing? You take a full sheet, stretch it around this deep, it became a half sheet. So I frequently look at my paintings and look at my full sheets. And this one just happened to be better as a half sheet than a full sheet. And all that fun stuff got on the edges. And this has been coated with the acrylic spray. And if I wanted to throw a pail of water on this right now, it'd be absolutely safe. And look at how tight. We always kid we could have a little band with drums when these are done. They're so tight. Just by wetting the back, letting it dry, you can see it's really tight. So I hope you find this a helpful lesson.